What's up, everybody? Welcome to Life Inner Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. I am joined by my co-host, Polish Peter. And on the Life Inner Show, we help people make more, work less, and live awesome, abundant, amazing, prosperous lives. What's up, bro?
Hey, man. So I got an idea. I think today on this particular podcast, I am going to attempt, ready for this?
Yes.
To do a Boston accent. Because
let's save it for the outro, though, because I don't want to lose people this early.
Yeah, okay. Man, what an interview, man. This guy is unbelievable. Tell us a little bit about him, man.
Dude, we're interviewing my friend Brian Mountain. He's a rock star. He's awesome in business. He's super smart. He works hard. He plays hard. More than one of my favorite traits about the guy is that he just shares with people and he gives and he really wants to see people succeed, and he passes on his information and knowledge. He talks about in this episode things like how he got started. He talks about how he encourages other people to get started with like $20, for instance. Like you don't need 200.
That story was awesome.
Yeah, man. And so we're going to jump into this now. We're going to talk about this perspective that he's developed about seeing opportunity in business and how we can spot deals and opportunities. We're going to talk about all these things surrounding entrepreneurship that I think are just a tremendous amount of lessons for anybody here getting started, or even if you're experienced.
Yep, take notes and listen.
Yep. Let's go right now to our interview with Brian Mountain. Dude, what's up, man? Welcome to Life Inner Show.
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Good, man. Cool to see you on, Peter, I've been trying to get Brian for a while on Life Inner Show. And so this is, dude, a hilarious
So you finally
story.
wore him down?
I wore him down, bro. I'm like, he's like, all right, this guy's never going to stop bothering me until he comes to the show. So dude, it's a crazy story, Brian, though. So we've never met in Massachusetts, but he's from Massachusetts, and his cousin was in our rival rock band in the town over from us. And it's the funniest thing. And we know all the same people. We've been to the same shows. We never even up in Massachusetts. And we both live in North Carolina now. And we connected at the RIA. Was the first time, I believe, that we met each other, Brian. I was running a RIA in North Carolina. And Brian's this guy and I'll let him tell you about a little bit about himself here, but in a second, but after I found out how successful he was and all these awesome things he's accomplished and done, both in the past and currently, I'm like, man, he spoke to the RIA and I need to get him on the show as well. And so, dude, so you run Triangle Plumbing. It's a plumbing company, but that's kind of just one of several things that you're doing right now. And I'm even curious, man, because one of the things we've talked about in the past is how you mentor youth. You look to help people apprentice under you, and you just have this passion for helping people in business and entrepreneurship. And so talk to us a little bit, how did you actually get there? Were you an entrepreneur as a kid, or did somebody pour that into you, or did you learn that on your own? And how did you get started?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So first off, the name of the company is Modern Plumbing. It used to be Triangle. Okay. And for those people who are not listening from North Carolina, the Triangle is a geographical location short for a tri-city town area. Yeah. And when I moved out west in the state, it's called the Triad. So I was wondering why I wasn't getting any calls from people in the Triad, and it was because we were anchored to a geographical location of the Triangle. But when I started, I'm like, man, nobody's got this name, Triangle Plumbing. I can't believe it. I'm taking it. Never thinking I was going to get out of the Raleigh-Durham area. And then since then we moved to Greensboro, which is the Triad. We moved to South Carolina. So we had 3 branches. So we changed the company name to an arbitrary name that really meant nothing, and it's called Modern Plumbing. And the reason why I mention that now is because anybody who's listening, you bring up my apprenticeship program, anybody that's listening who has a young person in mind. What do I mean by young? I mean, I don't know, 18 to 35, 40, somebody who wants to make a change in a career, that sort of thing. My entrepreneurial spirit kind of started at my first job. I started working as a dishwasher. My grandfather got me this job working for a guy named Tommy Christo in Worcester, Mass. All right. It's Christo's restaurant, family-owned restaurant. And it was a lower to income neighborhood where I grew up. And I met Tom Christo, and I was just like, I couldn't believe this guy. Every day he would come in, he'd be driving a brand new Corvette. He'd be driving a brand new truck, brand new Cadillac. He virtually had a different car every time I saw him. And I just had never seen anybody who had that kind of wealth. Everybody worked a 9-to-5 job and that sort of thing. So he says, I was just really impressed by the guy. And he was always the first one into the restaurant and the last one to leave. I mean, the guy would work there every day in and day out. I never went into work and not saw him, so I assumed he worked 7 days a week. And he kind of like mentored me when I was younger, and he'd call me BB. My name's Brian, but he'd go, BB, someday you're gonna own your own business someday. You want to know where the profits are? Go look in the trash can. They're throwing your profits away, you know? So to this day, when I walk into the plumbing company, I go to the scrap metal bin, I go to the trash can, and I go to the scrap brass bin, and I see what they're throwing away on me. And sure, he wasn't right. You know, I find stuff virtually every day that they throw away. Now, you may say, oh, well, that's $1 here and $1 there. But what I was always, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. I see money wasted, and I'm saying to myself, if people would throw that away right in front of you, what would they do when you're not looking, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's just one thing that he always kind of instilled in me, in my psyche. It's kind of like when you grow up and your mother's saying, when you leave the room, shut the lights off. When you finish going to the bathroom, put the toilet seat down, you know, that kind of thing. So it just always stays with you your entire life. So that's kind of where it started for me. And Tom Christo also said, you know, don't get in the restaurant business, you know, and I couldn't piece it together. I'm like, well, he's working here every day. And he would say to me, get in the real estate business. Don't get in this restaurant business. Didn't listen to him, went to 4 years at Johnson & Wales, started working as a chef, worked as all sorts of celebrity chefs and fine dining. I owned my own restaurant. Finally, I'd say I was probably about 26, 27 before I found out he was absolutely 100% right, and I should have never done that. And then I pivoted into real estate.
So hold on. Is that because like the hours of a restaurant are so harsh, or was it another reason why it's not a good restaurant? Or it's not a good business.
Well, I mean, God bless the people that work in the restaurant business. I think we all know. I mean, that's a very, very tough business. But at the same time, I was jumping around. And I was fun in my 20s. I was living in Miami. I'd go down there and work in the best restaurants could, jump over to New Orleans, New York, Long Island, Boston, New Orleans, all over the place. And you'd see this like in these type of vacation type atmosphere. It's a big revolving door of people. You never really meet friends, and then they move on to other places. And also the hours. I mean, you got to remember, anybody that you meet, you know, you want to find a significant other person or friends and that sort of thing, they're going to have a 9-to-5 type job. With the restaurant business is kind of like, you know, most restaurants in those type of areas sometimes close at 11 o'clock. I mean, those people are looking at the back of their eyes by that time, you know, and that's when I'm getting out of work, So you're on a conflicting schedule with everybody else that's working. So
got it.
That's why I found it tough. I liked it. Now all I do is I cook for my girls, my 8-year-old and my wife, and that's about all the cooking
Dude,
I do.
I'm kind of getting jealous here, man. You're making me hungry.
Yeah. Well, so you know, I got it, and then so what happened there was I sold my restaurant. I was kind of down in Miami. I started bartending just because it was quick money, and then my mother said, well, your uncle's doing this thing called backflows. It's like a safety valve type. You have to get them certified every year. Why don't you go up and learn that with him? So I came up here, learned that with him. Had a falling out with my uncle and everybody says, well, didn't you know about this guy? He's your uncle. And how did you not know this guy was like a full-blown alcoholic and just a lot of personal defects? I says, well, he lived in North Carolina. I lived in all over the place, and I grew up in Massachusetts. I only saw the guy like weddings and funerals. You know, I didn't know him very well. So I left him, went out on my own. So I basically started a plumbing company where I didn't know how to plumb. I didn't have a license, so I had to hire a qualifier. It was a tough getting going. It was real. I mean, I really, you know, I have some things in life, and if people turn around and I implore other people to say this. I mean, if people think I didn't earn what I got, I mean, they weren't there from the beginning when I was blood, sweat, and tearing this thing together. I mean, it was a long, arduous, I mean, every dollar I made, I mean, I was eating oodles and noodles trying to save up a little bit of money so I can get some tires on the van, and like that sort of thing for years. It wasn't just, I tell people that, and if we get into, I don't want to get too far ahead in the conversation, but I talk about this with the apprentices from time to time about that start. You have that mentality now. A lot of the younger kids coming up, they just think they're just entitled to have this great life. And they see these celebrities on TV and they just think, for anybody over 40, they think, what was Johnny Carson's sidekick there?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Ed McMahon. They think you won Publishers Clearinghouse, and the guy Ed McMahon's coming to your house with a suitcase full of money and a thing of balloons ringing your doorbell. That doesn't happen. You have to.
Well, unless you work for a mafia, then that I guess it could happen, right?
Yeah, the mafia been going. Illegal stuff, winning the lottery. I don't want to say it never happens, but for the overwhelming majority of us, we're not that lucky, So
this is one of the things that I found really intriguing, man, because when you're like, yeah, man, I started a plumbing company. I wasn't even licensed. I didn't know what I was doing. And to see you today, and I know it hasn't happened overnight. I know you've been doing this a while, but you have a ton of Airbnb beachfront properties. You have how many vans now in your business? You have 3 different locations. It's like a big business. It's like a successful business. And so I know you pour into these guys. What are some, and I feel like you're the kind of guy who's like, you've experienced success for yourself and you have gained a lot of knowledge and expertise and kind of experience, and you now enjoy pouring that into other people. Like, what are some of the things you're telling these guys, like that business owners who are not as seasoned as you need to kind of like either know or learn or get to kind of like accept?
Well, I will say this. I am in no way going to sit here and take credit for any of this. To me, I built a partnership with my wife, and I'll tell you this. A lot of people say life is short. No, it isn't. Life is long if you marry the wrong woman or you pick the wrong career, So you have to have that. You have to be compatible with somebody. When you're in high school and in the early 20s and you're like, boy, that girl's stunningly good looking and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden you kind of grow up and you're like, don't get me wrong, my wife is gorgeous, but that's not you have to have a common goal. So even though we would be working in the plumbing company on the weekends, we would do, and I tell people stuff like this, and we'll get into it a little bit. What was the question? Say that again, Jason. What was the question?
What are some of the things that you advise your guys on in these apprentices and people that are getting into business, like some of the lessons you've learned?
Okay, so the lesson is dovetailing exactly into what I was going to say. So the main priority, the main thing that I would say is you basically, I never take my foot off the gas. We're always focused on being one step better tomorrow than we were today. And, we hear this a lot when you start talking about, everybody's heard the old adage of, if you need money to make money, right? Everybody's heard that. And going back to that, when you had the RIA group going and I get up and I said that, and I'll tell the story real quick. There's a young kid, and I often reference the story. There was a young kid that was in the audience there. And he said, how do you get started? Like, I've read all these real estate books and I've listened to all the, podcasts on how to start in real estate, but they never tell you how to get that initial money to get started, right? Well, guess what? That's a $96,000 question. I'm going to answer today, right now. Here's how you get started. Okay. So I looked at the kid. I says, how much do you need? Now I know what he was going to say, just like a lawyer that like say, don't ask a question unless you know the answer. And I knew what he was going to say because we were primarily talking about starter homes and it was residential investment real estate, buy and hold guys, flipping guys that flip all sorts of different things in real estate investment. So he says, well, I need like, $200,000 to get started. So I'm like, okay, well, this kid, I could tell he's 21, 22, 3, something, a young guy. And I said to him, I says, well, how much money do you have of your own? He's like, nothing. I said, well, how's your credit? He goes, it's okay. And I says, You got any collateral? He says, no. I said, well, how many deals have you done? He goes, none. And I said, what do you know about the trades? I mean, can you do drywall, flooring? Can you do plumbing, HVAC, any of that stuff? Nah, I never did any of that. So I'm like, so you have no experience, you've never done any deals, you have no money, and you have no credit. You have basically two options in lending, in my opinion, primary options. And I understand, obviously, we all know about other ones, but you can either borrow the money from a lender, okay, from a traditional bank or whatever, or you can get an angel investor, friend, family member, maybe somebody who doesn't know you, but they're going to collect an interest rate from you or whatever. But either way, you're going to have to pay that money back. So you can pretty much rule out the banks. The banks are not going to loan you any money if you have no credit and that sort of thing. And the last thing you want to do is borrow $200,000 from a family member, because guess what? You are more than compelled to pay them back. Okay. So I told him, I said, and so I'm looking at the kids looking at me like, I guess
he's
I'll
like,
go
thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, he's like, I guess I'll go die now. Like, okay, like you didn't tell me anything. And I says, no, I did. And I said to him, I think you remember, I said, do you have $20? And the kid goes, yeah. I go, on you? He goes, yeah. I go, show it to me. Pulls out a $20 bill. I said, just give it to me. I'm not going to give it back to you. So I'm showing the class and I said, listen, take this $20 and go turn it into 40. And then take that 40 and try and turn it into 80. And then guess what's happened when you hit that $80 mark? You're going to make a giant mistake, buy the wrong thing, and then you're going to lose it all. Then just start over again. You just learned a lesson. I think of it as like a snowball on top of a mountain, and you push it down the mountain, and on the way down, it's collecting snow, but it's going to hit these branches and twigs and rocks and all this stuff. It's going to break apart on the way down. Those are your mistakes. Okay, those are your mistakes. When you get down to the end of the mountain, hopefully you have this giant, colossal snowball or big mountain of snow that just fell off the mountain. And that is your reward, but you did lose a lot on the way down. Anybody who says that they've been in business for any amount of time and hasn't made any mistakes is lying. Obviously, nobody is perfect. My point to him was, I'd rather mess around and lose $20, $50, $80 than go to a friend, family member, or institutional a bank or somewhere to get money and learn those easy lessons the hard way with a lot of money. I'd rather mess around and screw up with $20 than 200 grand. Right. And then fundamentally, and you guys are all in business, you know this. I was saying to Jason, I know Jason does a lot of fitness stuff and bodybuilding, that sort of thing. You can put it like this. He takes somebody to the gym the first day. Okay. I've seen Jason work out. I mean, it's crazy. He'll put 300 pounds on the bench to warm up,
He just makes it look good. Trust me.
Oh, no, I've seen he's a strong guy.
It's all looks.
Did he tell you? He went as John Cena one time to a Halloween party and pulled it off.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said it's all looks.
Any event. So you bring a newbie to the gym that's never worked out a day in their life. Do you put that 300 pounds on the bench? No, you're going to get crushed. You start off with just the bar. And then the next week you put the 10s on, and then you put the 25s, and you put the full work up to a full plate, and you're doing that. Then you're putting on the heavy weight. But you don't start for some reason in finance, business, and investing. People think when they hear that you need money to make money, they think it's a large amount of money. I don't know why that is. Whereas every aspect of their life, I don't care. I hadn't been skiing in 25 years. I went to Lake Tahoe last year, and I had to relearn how to ski. I didn't just go down the double black diamond, because I said I was skiing. No, I went down the bunny slope a bunch of times, and I started remembering the lessons that I had. Pain is a good motivator for you to do things like that. But for some reason in finance and investing, people don't think they can make mistakes and feel that pain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think the other aspect of it that I think we as a society have been kind of programmed to is this whole idea of instant gratification. You know what I mean? Like, I need to make money. I need to, like, now kind of thing, right? And it's a journey. You know what I mean? You can't do that like, boom, like all of a sudden you're just going to jump. And, so I think, can you talk a little bit about it? Do you agree with me on that? Or?
Oh, 100%. it's all in the attitude. Like, you have to put your time in to learn the lessons. Anybody says they came out of the womb knowing all this stuff, they just don't. You have to learn it eventually. And I suggest learning it with small money. And I totally agree with you. People think that it's just, that's the other thing that I hear from people, that, and you'll hear this, and you guys have heard this before. And if they haven't said it to your face, I guarantee they said it behind your back. Oh, that Brian, he's lucky. He's lucky.
I never said that about Vojo, by the way.
No, they say he's lucky. So it's this bodybuilder guy. He just lucked out to get that body. No, he put in a tremendous amount of work.
I've heard that.
Well,
I've heard that. You probably heard that too, Vojo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also hear that, you must have screwed somebody over to get what you got. That's the other attitude I hear. There's no way, because people create these excuses for themselves because why they don't have it, and they and that sort of thing. In my world, I don't think there's anything as even involved in luck in being successful. I think it's where opportunity intersects with perseverance. If you're not seeking out that opportunity, but you're persevering, you're like, I'm really working hard. But then you come home and you like throw the size 12 up on the coffee table and grab a bowl of ice cream and you're watching, sitcoms all night. You're not looking for that opportunity. And I tell my apprentices this all the time. I says, the deal of a lifetime is happening in this city right now. Someone got a wonderful deal on a car. Someone got a crazy deal on a house. I heard the other day, this guy got a house, $200,000 house for 80 grand. I'm like, okay, why didn't you get that opportunity? Because you weren't seeking it out. He was on the internet. He wasn't sitting there on Facebook and Twitter on his phone. He was going through real estate contacts and these other opportunities that may be coming out, seeking it out. If you're not seeking it out, you'll never find it.
Dude, talk to me about that a little bit more. Because I remember you brought up an example once about having this almost like an entrepreneur perspective or lens that you look through, because you had been, I think, and you may remember the story. If not, I can refresh your memory, but you said your vans, it's a pain in the tail for you to take your vans, go down, get them cleaned, get them serviced, and then bring them all back. And you're like, this is a business opportunity for someone right here. You guys, we have all these vans right here. You can set up a mobile shop and a detailing or cleaning service. And you can change my oil. You can do all the stuff. Come to my place. And there's businesses, and look, I'm one business just on my street alone. There's all these businesses. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It is, I come up with so many ideas, and it's not that I'm like any smart. I'm just looking for opportunity. I remember talking about that. Yeah, there's something somebody could get involved in for, I don't know, $20,000. Get a van, a pump, oil, get some leaflets set up for somebody like me that has a service company. We have all service trucks, in my Raleigh branch alone, I have 13, 14 trucks, right? How much would I love it if I didn't have to pay my shop supervisor to drive these vans up every 3,000 miles to the lube shop and get them, oil changes and check the wipers and do a once over on all this. If the guy just came over on a Saturday, notice I say Saturday and Sunday, you don't have to quit your regular job. I'd be more than happy. Here's the keys to get in the back of my place. Go in there. You can run the whole damn thing with an iPad, right? And, this log in all the miles on the trucks. Okay, this is due for this. Let's check the windshield wipers, do this. And just do it and send me a bill. I don't want, that's something that's tailor-made. And then, I'm not telling you to ride 2 towns over to change some guy's oil in his driveway. I'm saying primarily focus in on service companies that have 2,500 service trucks. You look down the highway and see how many of them are going by. It's that's just one small business that somebody could get going, like literally overnight. And I'm not trying to act like Daddy Warbucks and $25,000 is no big deal, but if you're working and you got some good credit, you could cobble together 25 grand to get something like that going. And it would not take a whole lot of marketing. You could literally go door to door. How about, like right on my street, I got Alan Kelly, HVAC. I got Star Electrical next door to me, Modern Plumbing. There's another refrigerant guy up the street. I can't remember.
No
On my
service.
street alone, there's probably 60, 70 service trucks on my street alone. You know, how much you pay for an oil change? What is it now? Like 50, 60 bucks now?
Yeah. And
Just
by
for
the way,
oil.
strangely enough, these service companies are in pretty much every city in the America.
100%.
So you don't have to go to North Carolina to start a business. You can do
Right.
it anywhere.
Anywhere.
Oh.
And by the way, you just find out what they're paying right now. Say they're paying $50, $55 over at Jiffy Lube. Say, hey, I'm a small business. What the guy's doing it for $55, I'll do it for $45. And I'll take care of the whole thing, and you never have to worry about it. And I'll have records for you. So when you turn around and sell the truck, I got a time signature of when I was here for the last 4 years you've had that truck. Wouldn't that be for a prospective buyer trying to buy a used truck? Say, hey, look, I have the maintenance records on all this. Try getting a maintenance record out of Jiffy Lube that you got an oil change 6 months ago. They don't know who you are, right?
Yep.
So something like that, you know, would work.
How do you? But so and this is like this is far from the only idea you've ever thrown at me. You have, I mean, I think you even said you write this stuff down. You're like a journal of ideas. How does somebody develop this mindset and this perspective though? Because this is the golden goose right here. Like if you can figure out how to have this perspective, like you can see opportunities at every corner, you know, like you just notice it. Like, is that something you learned?
Well, I look around for the need. I look around for what services that I use, and then I look into how to make those services better. Like if you, for example, I may have a little, like any small business is like, oh, I wish I could do this a different way. I wish that service was around. And I'm like, I'm not saying there's no such thing as a mobile shop. There are, but I don't see too many of them around. And think of this. You're operating outside of a brick and mortar, right? This is why, like, for example, brick and mortar restaurants don't like food trucks. Well, we have to pay all this taxes and we have to pay per seat and all this stuff and all this labor and everything. And this hot dog stand just pulls right up and gets all the money. And they, you know, so they have an advantage, right? So you have an advantage like that. So I'm constantly thinking of, and now you caught me off guard because I could sit here and rattle them off. I haven't eaten today, so my brain is not working well now. So, I could sit here and rattle them off one after another to you. It's like I have them written down, but I know, like, I think of them all the time. And I'm like, and I'm sitting next to my apprentice every day, and I rattle these off. And it's like, wow, that's a good idea. I should do that someday. What about today? Do it today.
Right. Well, I think part of it is I think you have your, for the lack of a better word, your eyes open. Because if you look around, you're driving around town or you're going to different places, right? If you have your eyes open, you can spot opportunities or problems that there's there to be solving, right? And if you think about it, a lot of the ideas that we've come to know and learn, like anything, chia heads, whatever that, you know, if you look at it, there was a problem and they created the solution for whatever you needed, right? And they started a company. The problem with that is that you have to go and start with one idea, because if you just, I want to do this. No, I want to do this and this and this. And that's a squirrel. No, squirrel, right?
Right.
And that's the thing when it comes to ideas. If you have your eyes open out there in the market, you can probably spot opportunities. And I'm seeing that this is something that you do very well, I think.
I think so. I mean, again, I tell people these things because I'm already working a ridiculous amount of time. I don't have time to do all this stuff.
Right.
So I say to people, the guy that's next to me that, you know, is struggling for money, I said, go do something like this. By the way, if you're committed and you say, hey, I might want to do something like this, I might know someone who has money that might want to invest in it. There's your upfront investment money, right? Pay that guy back. You know, there's ways to get things going. The problem is like pulling the trigger on it is like literally almost all the battle. You know, it's like getting started, actually doing something, you know. That's kind of how I feel about it. I think people are afraid to start. To me, I don't know.
Why do you think that is, man? Like, have you had any apprentices tell you why they are so reluctant or scared? Is it just fear?
Well, it's funny. It's like I try to motivate. I think of this one guy I had a few years ago, and the guy loved cars. He could tell you, we could be at a stoplight and there's a car that goes by, and I just think I don't even know what kind of car it was. And he's like, you know what that was? That was a BMW, blah blah blah, and they only made 5,000 of them worldwide. And that thing he knew cars inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
He loved them, and he knew a little bit of small mechanics. Like he could, nothing big, but he could change out a carburetor. He could put new tires on it, things like that. But I would look at him all day, and he's on Twitter. And I said to him, I says, you need to put the Twitter away, man, and just focus in on what you're really good at, which is cars. You like cars, right? I says, why don't you go on Craigslist, look for some cars that need a little bit. I'm not talking about full-blown jalopies. I'm talking about, they need a little bit of tires, or they need this, and the guy's moving, he wants to get rid of it, whatever, you pick it up cheap. Well, first car he got a, I remember it was like a $1,200 car. He ended up, and it took him some time to get it going, and he only made $600. He goes, I only made $600. And then he bought another one, and he lost a little money. I said, keep going. Every deal's not going to be a winner. Mm-hmm. Well, he was persistent, and he kept going and kept doing it. And then he bought 2 vans. The last deal that he did was he ended up making friends with a repo guy in Atlanta. And this repo guy called him and said, I got this, one-off Mercedes with a clear title, and I'm selling it, and it's $25,000. You want it? You got it. But I got to know right now. And so he called me up, and he says, that's all my money. He's like, everything I've ever done all year, I made $25,000. He goes, should I do it? But he proceeded to tell me, if I buy that, I know a guy that I can sell it to for $40,000 right now. I said, you got a bird in the hand. Why would you not do that? So getting to your question, Peter, because it seems like a risk, but they have a tailor-made buyer, but they're asking me whether or not they should do the deal. I'm saying I would,
So,
well, you do it?
He ended up doing it. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I had another young guy. His name's Jeremy, and he's American, but he had a dual citizenship. He's Israeli. Came over here when he was like 3 years old. He was trying to retain his citizenship in Israel. And as you guys know, every man and woman needs to spend a year in the Israeli army to retain that citizenship. So he had to leave the United States when he was 18, go stand on the Gaza Strip with a machine gun and do nothing for an entire year. Well, before he left, I was talking to him about real estate. He was like, man, I really like what you're saying about real estate. What should I be reading? What should I be doing? So, I sent him, the books I like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, start him off with that just to get the mindset straight. And then, other real estate books that I liked. And he's sending me stuff that and I'm buying them on Amazon. Amazon used to sell a lot of books. And he comes back and he's all jazzed up. And he's back for like 2 days. And he's like, all right, show me everything you know. So we go up to the man cave here. We sit down. We start going over everything. I'm showing him how to obtain tax records, find out who the owners are, how to recognize what is a bank-owned property through the tax records, different little tricks and stuff I used to use. And so he starts looking around. He finds this house. It's like $14,000 house in Smithfield, North Carolina. He goes, would you go over there and look at it? Because he knows I'm a trade guy. I go over and I look at it. He says, what'd you think of the deal? I says, let's put it this way. If you don't buy it, I will. He says, that's good enough for me. So he goes and tries to get a loan from a bank for $14,000. They would never write him a loan. His father wouldn't let him borrow the money. So he backed out of the deal. He goes, hey, if you want to go buy it, I ended up buying it. But long story short about that guy is, and I met him when he was 17. He's probably 29 now, and he did everything and more he owns a 38 unit apartment building. He owns a mini strip mall. He owns at least 15 rental properties that I know about. He spends his life in Vail, Colorado skiing. The guy has had the best life, and it's really awesome. I almost get choked up thinking about it because every time I talk to him, he says, man, I can't thank you enough. If I didn't meet you, I would have never done all this. It's like the best feeling in the world, man. It is like literally the best feeling in the world. So but unfortunately, for every 20 kids that I try and mentor like that, I get one success story, but it's worth it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So dude, I know we're kind of running tight on time here, but I wanted to ask you, like, so these are incredible lessons, by the way. Thank you for sharing. And I know I can see you as being a regular guest when we can get you on for so many different topics, but like, you work hard, but you also play hard. And so like, you know, I know you put a lot into your business, but it seems like also you're enjoying the fruits of that too. Like, it seems like every time I talk to you, you're like, yeah, we're going down to Miami. Yeah, we're skiing. Yeah, I'm in Vegas. Yeah, I'm here and there. What does that look like for you now? And how do you balance that with work?
Well, that kind of started with, you know, my wife and I were workaholics. And then, you know, when my daughter was born, she's 8 years old. We kind of like we were able to, I didn't have a child till I'm 48. I didn't have a child till I was 40. So I delayed that a lot. And now that I have my daughter, obviously priorities change, right? Mm-hmm. But I started my, not to get too biblical, but there is a part in the Bible where they say, be fruitful and multiply. Mm-hmm. They don't say multiply, then think about being fruitful. Right. So, that's kind of what I did. So I kind of, I had a good foundation as far as wealth and investments and that sort of thing when my daughter was born. So now, you're right. I'm able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And we have a ton of fun, you know, going skiing and going down the Caribbean and going down the beach. You know, she's at the beach, she's doing surfing lessons, and she's doing a lot of stuff that her life is totally different than what mine was growing up. I mean, totally different, you know. You know, when Hampton Beach, I'd go one vacation a year. My mom would be saving her pennies to like go to, you know, for 5 days at Hampton Beach, and we'd get just that one thing. And, you know, it's just the biggest thing ever, you know.
Dude, yeah. Well, and I'm curious. I'll go ahead, Peter.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, and that's probably, I mean, I wonder how do you, and I know this is probably, I don't want to rush you through this question, but you know, you are, I mean, you're super wealthy. How do you train and raise your daughter to understand what it took to build that and like to respect it? Like, cause that's a question I hear from people all the time that are really wealthy. They're like, I don't want them to grow up like entitled, but I want them to understand work, but I want them to have a blessed life too. Like, how do you balance that, man? That seems like it could be a challenge.
Oh yeah. That's totally what it is. And I go out of my way to teach her that. It not only is like, no, I come up with things to do. Like I save, you know, you get a pocket full of change, and I've just been saving it for like 10 years. And I'm like, let's go up and count money, you know, and we roll them all up. And she loves doing it. You know, she's 8 years old. She's packing these things in the quarter rolls and all that. And then we take it down to the bank. We're like, oh my God, we got, you know, $800 worth of change, you know, and she sees the value of the dollar. I got her one of those little, you know, Hawaiian ice slushy things. And I bought all the syrups on Amazon, and she goes out in front and does, you know, Catherine's 25-cent ice.
Oh, nice.
Sometimes they ruin it for me though. Like they'll come by and they'll just throw $5 at her. Oh, honey, you're so cute. Just take the $5. I'm like, oh no, I'm trying to like
give her a quarter.
Show her that she has to like make the icy for the 25 cents, you know?
Right.
And it's, you know, so sometimes if I try things like that and I'm like, my wife will come home and I'm like, she made $120 in ices in 1 hour. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out, Jason. I know you have kids, and Peter, if you guys can share anything with me to help that along.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a discussion about this, man, because it's a genuine thing, right? Because like, and I've heard that said like the first generation builds it, the second generation kind of maintains it, and the third generation destroys it, kind of thing. Like, and so you gotta like it's like it's passing down those lessons and and the ethics and and all of it, man. Like, and so that's the whole other thing that nobody ever talks about.
Dude, you are reading my mind. I just said something to somebody today about that. Isn't that incredible? You think of all the Wojos that came before you, right? Eventually,
I hope there isn't more than just this. I mean, like, more than this. Oh, I can't. I don't even want to think about that. There has been more Wojo before that.
All of the Wojo ancestors that it had all, they worked their whole life and they passed it down to your great-great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather, your grandfather, your father. And it should all this giant cascading waterfall of wealth that was built over generations should be on top of all of us.
Yeah. What happened?
Where is it? Either somebody is terrible in business or the death tax is outrageous.
Yeah, it's true, man. Well, and it's like I think, and that I'd love to have a whole different episode on that, because like it's passing on, I think, blessings that come in many different forms. It's all the character traits that, and because it does take a tremendous amount of responsibility to manage a large amount of money and to know how to steward that. And so that'd be, yeah, I knew that was going to be an open-ended question, man, but I was just curious if you had any quick tips. And so we're all in the same boat, man. Well, listen, dude.
So hold on, I got a question. Quick question, because I know we're finishing up. So if I remember correctly from the beginning of the show, you guys both said that you guys kind of grew up in Massachusetts, not too far from each other.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Correct.
So how the heck do you, Brian, maintain such a cool freaking accent out of Massachusetts? And he sounds like, I don't know what he sounds like.
Okay,
how does this happen?
It's funny because my cousin who lives a town, he was in Webster, then there's Oxford, and then is it Auburn, then Worcester?
Yeah.
Okay, I think the Boston accent like ends at Worcester. Am I wrong,
dude? My brother has some of it. Like, so I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what happened, man. I think I just.
Yeah. You're lost cause.
Yeah, I don't. I'm a phony, bro. I can't represent like you can, man.
You could turn it on like Marky Mark if you wanted to.
Yeah. Fuck the car. Yeah.
I don't know about that. Let's not try. Let's not even. You know what? We might do bloopers with one.
We're gonna lose listeners if we continue.
Yeah.
Well, bro, I want to thank you. Like, I'm so grateful for you being on the show, but more than that, your friendship. I've learned so many lessons from you. I love hanging out. We go to do all this stuff together. It's a blast. And so thanks, man. I appreciate everything and all you are, bro.
I appreciate it. Hey, man, I brag about you all the time. Now, Peter's going to get really mad when I say this. I always say, if you look up the perfect man in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Jason next to it. Oh. He's faithful. He's all jacked up in great shape. He's like financially set. He helps other people. I brag about you all the time, man. I love you, but
it's mutual.
I appreciate the nice words, man.
I was thinking, is there any flaw in this Brian guy? And I know what it is.
Well, thanks for the show, buddy. We'll talk soon, man.
All right, guys.
That was an awesome episode, man. Like, that's fantastic. Let's go park the car and drink some beers.
You know what? You suck at this accent. He's got it.
I know.
Man, if I didn't know you better, I would thinking that I'll be talking to some kind of a mafia man, and he's gonna like. When he started talking about the guy that was working in the restaurant, I'm like, all right, we're getting into some serious stuff here. So
I didn't hear your accent,
some good
man.
lessons here,
bro. There's a few things about this interview that really, really struck me. And I get to talk to Brian like frequently. So there's so many things that we could talk about on this episode, but we're gonna have to have him back. I love the talk and the discussion around starting, like just start. He didn't even know he wasn't even a plumber, man. He wasn't even licensed, and he started a business doing it, and he picked it up as he went. Like, we've heard this repeated theme, several times in the Life in Our show, where like, you don't wait until all your ducks are in a row. You don't wait until everything's perfect and every single, because listen, it's never going to happen. You're never gonna have all your ducks in a row. You're never gonna know everything. And so I love that he just started that, man. And he overcame the objection about money too. Like, and he's talked about this, you got $20. What do you know about? You could buy something like maybe it's furniture, maybe it's something about, I don't know, a guitar or whatever, and you can turn around and flip it and make more money. And maybe you don't even, you don't have to do big stuff to get going.
Right. And I think that's one of the things we talked about in that episode. I mentioned the instant gratification. I think it's part of that problem why people don't know how to start and don't know where to start and when to start.
Yeah.
Because they think there is a plan from A to Z, right? and I need to go and take these steps. So what's the step A? There is no step A. Just start somewhere. Even if you're starting at step Z, or you're starting at step, K, you're starting somewhere, and then you're going to figure out the next step and keep moving forward. And I think that's why he's so successful, because he doesn't wait for something, just sees the opportunity, which we talked about the other thing.
Yeah.
I mean, look at opportunities. Just one example of talking about servicing the trucks. If there's someone who's
like literally somebody could start a multi-million-dollar business off of this, like several, it's definitely, 6-figure business. Right. And
disclaimer, just make sure it aligns with your vision.
Yeah. And throw Brian some money too, like when you do that.
That's right.
So here's the thing though, man, like if I'm thinking back through of our episodes, and just recently, like just here in the last handful of episodes, Jason Roberts talked about building his parachute on the way down. He got into the assisted living facility. He didn't know anything about it. Now, of course, like, listen, you gotta be smart with this. You can't just be, jump into anything like foolishly. Dallin Schultz, here's a guy who's, who got into investing, and he talked about multifamily, and he just did it. He just did it. And this is a common thing we're seeing with successful entrepreneurs. And also recognizing you're going to have mistakes. You're going to get clobbered sometimes. You're going to make a misjudgment, or, and that's part of it.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That is a good thing. Because think about it, to his example, when he's talking about, it's a lot easier, not easier maybe, but losing that $80 at the beginning of a journey, right? Learning that lesson in 80 is probably in the long span, much better than losing 2 or 3 or 5 or $1 million in a deal later on. You know what I mean?
And the lessons, I bet you, are very similar too. Like, so you can apply what you learned with less money to the larger deals.
You learn from it, and you move on to the next step and the next step. That's why you build that ball, snowball that you talked about, rolling it from the mountain. I love that analogy, by the way, because I've had conversation with some students, and I'm like, man, I'm trying to start this business. I'm trying to do this. And it feels like I'm pushing rock up the mountain. Well, he used an analogy, you just push the, down the hill. Yeah. And you start thinking about that perspective, and you start looking at you start getting momentum. If you notice in this conversation, he talked a little bit about momentum, actually, without actually talking about, right? Yeah. Being consistent, persistent, momentum, that kind of stuff.
Well, and it does, I don't even think it ends at a huge snowball. It creates an avalanche. And now that whole, because, Brian, we didn't get into this, but he's, we just talked about his plumbing company a little bit. That's one of several things that he does, and they're all doing fantastic. They're all, it's turned into an avalanche for him, and it's awesome. And so the other thing that I love that we talked about a little bit as well was, basically this idea of having a filter for opportunity, having a lens to see things, and just a different way. Like, I've started doing this myself, actually. And this wasn't something I was trained for at all. When I was trained as a scientist, dude. I wouldn't know an opportunity if it fell on my head. And so I've started to develop this as well over the past couple of years. And this is just such a benefit, to just see the things that are missing or broken or confusing, right? What can be fixed and improved. And that's just such a powerful thing to do.
Yeah. The one thing I want to put this, it just popped into my head. Ask yourself those questions when you see the problem or something out there. Ask yourself the question, what's missing? Not like it's a bad thing, but if I put it in there, it would make a real difference with this thing.
Yeah.
And then you start looking from the perspective of what's not there that we can put in that's going to make a difference. Right. So like he just said, in that regard, I hate the problem he has. I hate taking those trucks and driving across the town, paying my supervisor to go drive it. Well, that's a problem. What can we put in there? What if the guy showed up to my site? Now it's a solution, right? Yeah. And you can find those kinds of opportunities in different areas of life.
That's a great, and maybe listen, write these things down on a Post-it note, carry around with you, put it on your phone. What's missing? What's broken? What's confusing? How could this be better or improved? Those, start thinking that way, and it'll make a huge difference for you as you spot incredible opportunities, and then incorporate that, like you said, into your vision. Like I said before, Brian works hard. He really does work hard, but I don't know if I know anybody that travels as much as him. He's always somewhere doing something fun. It's really cool. So listen, I hope you guys learned something from this, took some nuggets from it. And Brian I think he's a great example, because it's not like this, he's just this 3,000 IQ guy. He's smart, but he does something with it. And I think he's a real an example of the awesome things that can happen when you apply the lessons that he just openly shared with you. And I love that he shares with the people, and he has this heart for improving other people's lives as well. It's just awesome to see. I love the guy to death. So if you guys love this as well, leave us a review, leave us a rating, give us a thumbs up, share this with somebody else that needs to hear this kind of stuff. Come join us in the private life in our Facebook group, and we'll talk more about it. Until next week, everybody, we'll see you next time. Take care.